quick rundown of how to make a stacked leather handle for a small Estwing hatchet. The bottom here, it's actually, I don't think you can remove it very easily. The part that's mushroomed over there is actually this piece, as far as I can tell. So what you have to do is cut all your pieces and then alternate the direction like this, so it will lock in place, sort of. I used Estwing's leather glue, which is widely available. You could also use contact cement, although the Estwing's glue gives a little more work time. You'll be able to move the stuff around, where contact cement, it'll just stick and it'll be pretty hard to move around after initial contact. I started out with this template here. These far apart holes were my first measurement, and that was just roughly from center to center on the handle. So these two is just center to center. And then when I put the leather piece on, it turned out that these were too far apart, so I just stamped that whole one whole distance in there, and then did this pattern, which was initially 3/16 more on each side, and then I cut it down about halfway up, so you can see about here is where those changed length. Ideally, you would follow this curve a little better. If this would zoom, no it won't. Well, it kind of did. But as you can see, the first maybe 1.5 inches there, I didn't taper the inside, so that it was kind of going straight up. So I had to compensate by starting to taper about here, the inside. And I did a few of those with a 2-inch chisel, actually. And then you could use a knife also, but I just used a belt sander eventually, because this requires a lot of pieces of leather. But these don't go on perfectly. It kind of rounds out, rather than carving this out a little so that it fits perfectly in there. I just fitted it around so you get to squeeze these ends in. But after a minute or two, the glue sets up enough that you can move on, usually. This is actually used or scrap leather. There's, of course, the piece I cut up is the part that had, this was somebody else's markings, and I'll provide a couple of links on eBay usually where you can get these cut off pieces of leather. This is veg tan, 10 to 16 ounce So about around 1/4 of an inch, sometimes a little less. 1 ounce of leather is equal to 1/64. So you have to kind of work that out for yourself. It's sort of a ridiculous system. In other places they'll use millimeters, so this would be probably 2.5 to 3 millimeters, I think. Whatever 1/4 of an inch is in millimeters. And I wetted this down, let it dry out completely so that it will shrink some and it hardens up, but you can just flex that out. As far as the shaping goes, probably gonna attempt to keep it pretty simple. I'm not sure what will feel the most comfortable exactly, so I'll just pare away the material slowly. It's nice as I found out that I can use this Fisker's rotary cutter, and I can pop the blade about that far out, so I can get at least like half the way through the back there, I think, which is nice because I was just gonna go directly to the belt sander, and I like to try to avoid using electric power tools as much as possible because they're loud. But this is what I do with this. Rock it back and forth. If anything, you want to tilt it outside as it goes farther down, just so you're not paring in, because as always you can remove material, but you can't add it back on. Well, you actually kind of can with leather, but it's better not to. Now I have the handle shaped the way I want it to be. Pretty much just beveled off the hard edges there and flattened these out. Now I've wetted it down and let the water soak in, and I will take this cobbler's hammer and hit the leather. I kind of picked this up from watching a cordwainer or shoemaker on YouTube, and supposedly this compresses the fibers. It's what you would do on the heel of a leather-heeled shoe just to give it more strength. And I'll do that all the way around.
It also levels out some of the spots, but only a little. If you have some really high spots or something, will just kind of mushroom over and look pretty crappy. So you want this to be fairly level. And after that's done, I'll come back and I'll just do some finishing work.